also
preparations for this as well.
Yeah.
Well, from what you have seen, and we are on the second day of the admissions, where are we as a country from where you sit?
Send positive vibes first as the host. Why? Parents, students, and all that, you're in school, start learning. Parents, congratulations for those who have been able to take their young ones to school. The ones who are still at home, we hope that the CS is taking decisive actions as we speak now, so that each and every one of them get placed appropriately. So the confusions which have been there and all, and as we said, we discussed this, how are the preparations being done. Some of these things, what we say, you require a lot of piloting ahead of things, like these automated placements. You know, the automated placements which somehow ignored the preferences of some candidates. And so they felt like, but we qualified to go to this, and how come we are not there? And then the response of, we only have a fixed number of slots. But then you should be asking yourself, why is it that they are just angling towards certain schools? So the other aspect of preparations, we said it's because of the infrastructure. Because when they know the infrastructure there to facilitate senior school learning, many would like to go to those. Those are well-established schools. They have been known to perform. They have teachers. They have laboratories. They have workshops. And so with CBC, which requires such kind of infrastructure and supporting tools, they would prefer to be there. So when you saw, right even from the time they are making pre-selection, that where would you like to be? 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 12. And they did not mention about some 3,000. It's because they were looking at those infrastructure. So where we are, let's encourage those who have landed spaces, those who are still on the way to get there. There must be none that is left behind, whatever it takes. So Migos Ogamba CS, the responsibility bestowed upon you by the Basic Education Act, Section 29, is to ensure that every child is in school and learning. And with this grade 10, let this transition not end up pouring some out of school, so that we have out of school children increasing. Let's ensure that 100% transition is not just rhetoric, but is actualized by looking and mopping out wherever they are, ensuring that they are in school. And two, address the things which have caused the headache, the mayhem here. Actually, that automation, whoever did that, and that did not work as per the expectation, those are standards of CBC, they should just quick audit of that just to ensure what happened, what went wrong. But most significantly, the reasons as to why the students failed to select some of those 3,000 schools, which as we speak also now have students, meaning they are selected against their choice. So it's because of the infrastructure. Can you ensure that some priority and rapid decisive action is taken at this moment, within this year, so that we don't carry this forth to grade 11 and grade 12. And as we think of that, can you ensure also that, because you can walk and chew gum, you have all the experts within your department, you have all those people who can help you. Can you walk and chew gum by also thinking, how are they transitioning to the universities and TVETs after, in 2029? Because that is very, very important. If we wait until that time, is when you start running left and center, then it will be too late. You'll be having a situation like what now is bedeviling us. Indeed,
it's a good thing that you've mentioned some of the things, and you've also answered some of the questions that I had. And of course, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. It's a good summary, because at the end of the day, we will also ask the question ourselves: what happens to those who are not placed? And of course, the Constitution and the Act, the Education Act, mentioned that no one should be left behind. Let's look at the Kenya Private Schools Association. From where you sit as private, we don't expect so many challenges in the private school as we are experiencing in the public schools. I do remember when we were transiting from the 844 now to CBC, there were a number of challenges. Yes. And also in 2003, when we had free primary education, we had a number of challenges here and there, but they were ironed out. From where you sit, and the way you have seen the placement and yesterday the new pupils joining schools, where you sit, how has the transition been?
Thank you so much. First, let me start by introducing who we are.
Yes.
I'm Rosette from Kenya Private Schools Association. And Kenya Private Schools Association is a representative body of all private basic education institutions in the country. And as an association, we work together with education stakeholders to just ensure that we provide quality, equity, and innovation in education. So our goal really is to ensure that we contribute largely to the national development. Going back to the current placement, maybe to just let us know that we still have an issue in the public's domain where people or the parents have not understood what clustering really is. Probably this is a contribution to less or poor sensitization among the parents, because just like my partner here has said, we still have parents who are missing out in specific schools. And we ask, what exactly is CBC speaking about as regards to these schools? These schools are never supposed to be national, county, extra-county, or sub-county schools. They were supposed to be pathways institutions where children then transition to the pathway of their preference. But we realize parents are still rushing to go to the traditional elite schools that were perceived to be better than others. However, as private schools, we're coming to offer a solution and an option for the public, because looking at the private schools, we also do offer all the clusters just like the public counterpart. We have the cluster 1, the cluster 2, and all the way to cluster 4. So we do not expect that parents should be confused, because a parent is asking, I got a 67. Why is my child going to a cluster 4 school? And another one got 50. Why is he going to a cluster 1 school? Really, the parents need to be sensitized and informed that the choice or placement is based on competence and achievement in the subject combination and not in the aggregate points. So I think it is important that this sensitization goes out there to ensure that all children settle in school.
Yeah, and still on the same, how well were the private schools consulted in regards to designing the placement framework?
I can say yes, the private schools were there from the beginning. They were fully consulted because, like I introduced myself, that we work together with the government to just ensure that we provide quality education. So we were fully involved as an association to be part and partake in the whole conversation around the policies and the framework. Even as we speak today, the government and Kenya Private Schools Association are working together to ensure that children from private schools are also input or part of the portal of the selection and the placement portal. So yes, we were full.
Boaz, picking from where Rose has left and looking at the infrastructure, you did mention something in regards to ensuring that we have sufficient resources and infrastructure as well. Does the country have these resources to ensure that education is not only available for everyone, but there's equity, just like Rose has mentioned?
Thank you, and thanks, Rose, to the work that private schools are doing or offering, the services they're offering, indeed, in terms of employment and then placement of our children. And of course, in any space like Kenya, you have a space. But from the Elimu Bora standpoint, why we always anchor heavily on the public education is because that is where all the low income and almost, the children from the very underprivileged categories will get a home. And in this case, I think you'll find many of them not able to get any funds to go into the private thing, because For indeed, why do you think the private institutions are thriving? The resources they collect, they apply them appropriately. They ensure that the infrastructure are done. Like many of the children who have gone through their JSS, at least have been exposed to the laboratories and the workshops and all. And I think, I don't know whether it was here where I had remarked some 2 or so years ago that this system provided the leakage to the private schools, because when we were still struggling, will the JSS be domiciled in secondary or primary?
Yeah.
They were already constructing laboratories in primary school, and I see that was leakage. But that is what forward planning means.
Yeah.
I think they were doing it just in case, whichever it lands, but because the resources were there. So back to the question you're asking. For us to do what they're doing in the private schools, it means resources must be made available, but accountably also used. Ben, right now we have 702 billion Kenya shillings, 2025, 2026. That is a budget given to education. That is a lot of money. That is a lot of money. If well utilized, of course, take the 300 billion to TSC for the teachers and all that manpower, you still remain with a lot of money. Are we applying it appropriately? What is the vote for the infrastructure doing? How is the supporting? By the way, when I say 703, I've not even included the component that is coming through the CDF. The NGCDF, you know, I also had the component of constructing school, classrooms, and all this, including the laboratories we were crying foul about. They said the NGCDF would take lead in helping schools, public schools, to construct those. So I'm saying there's a lot of money that is in education. In terms of prioritizing what to use it on, that is where I think the rain starts beating us. Can we ensure that the monies, one, we apply them appropriately as per the vote heads? If it is infrastructure, we also do not inflate the figures in terms of tendering, because we know what 1 million shillings can do. And if you do what only 200,000 can do with 1 million shillings, comparatively, go to private school and then the public school, you find 200,000 and 1 million this side, that they're doing almost same stuff. There's something completely wrong. If you get that even the tools that we use for the laboratories and all that are exaggerated in cost, then there's something completely wrong. But I'm picking on those to tell you that there should be a regulatory mechanism that must be enforced by the government. The cabinet secretary is the chief enforcement officer. And that's why the president, we appeal to the president to always be very careful before appointing people to certain positions. Because if you appoint a cabinet secretary that feel like he's been thrown to the deep waters and is panting and trying to remain afloat, then you know you're not getting the right remedy for the problems in education. So get competent people, but give them also the power to execute. But where they are not able to, fire them. The buck stops with the president. So for us, you see us saying, if things are wrong, even in a classroom, I'll spare that head teacher. I'll spare the county director of education. I'll spare Migos. I'll spare Bitok. I'll ask President Ruto, you got the mandate of Kenya. These are your officers. These are your messengers to help you execute. Put them back to order and ensure that work is being done in schools. Please do not allow for excuses. Because, for example, when this issue of the placements was supposed to be done, who didn't know that, one, you require to give clear, concise, but simple bits of information to the stakeholders, starting with the students themselves, their parents, and also that they are with you working. You do not wait until there's hue and cry and when you come to respond, but you also respond in a generalized term. Is it that you are unable to have a spokesperson within the Ministry of Education to deal with this? We thought the chief spokesperson within the ministry is the CS himself or herself, in case a female one is appointed. If that is not happening, can you create a communication department that constantly engages the public? Because with that, then the whole country would be with you in terms of understanding how we have transitioned from 844 to where we are now, CBC, and where we are transitioning from primary to JS, and now from JS to senior school with minimum questions. The multiplicity of questions and the perspectives being given, it's because people are lost there. So can we have an organized way of giving communication? Take the example of the school fees. Up to today, the circular that was issued, which was directing the schools that, oh, do not overcharge, follow these guidelines. And you said those guidelines, according to the 2015 circular that was released, they categorized schools. You remember? They categorized the day schools, and the day schools were also in the sub-county, then county, extra county, and then the national. But Munavu report and the pronouncement of the president, it was clear through the CBC that we do not want the categorization. How come then, when you're saying the fees would be determined using that circular categorized? So you are giving people the opportunity to raise fees without saying it. Because if you say now all schools will be uniform and the maximum that will be paid is 53, even those schools that were charging 43,000 per child per year would go to 53. That is an increase. So be clear, be concise, and please, before you go to any marketplace, before you go to any rally, before you go to any funeral to pronounce yourself, avoid the educational matters being pronounced there.
Okay.
The Jogo House is here, and there are many offices of the ministry. Use those and give concise communication. Guide them. Please prepare them. Tell them, for instance, right now when we are having the challenges of teachers in grade 10, tell them, before they ask you, who is going to be teaching, for instance, the marine and fisheries technology? Who is going to teach the film technology? Who is going to teach the aviation in this? Those are STEM subjects.
Yeah.
Who is tell them, if those are not going to be activated now in some of those schools, also tell them. There's nothing wrong in telling them that this will not be activated as for now because of lack of the teachers, because the teachers who are delivering 844, those subjects didn't exist. So you don't have teachers for the music adequate to be spread. So preemptively engage the public. They will understand.
Okay.
But if you keep quiet until they start raising, it is hue and cry, and there'll be a lot of heat without you realizing.
Rose, speaking from where Boaz has left, do you believe from where you sit from the Kenya Private Schools Association, do you believe that there was adequate public communication? And he has pointed out quite gaping holes in regards to how communication and any information coming from the ministry on how these schools should be run, and especially when we are transiting to grade 10. Do you believe there have been adequate information, communication?
Personally, I believe communication was not well done. CBC is a good system, but we were sold the system in a wrong way. Why am I saying this? When we look at other countries like Finland, there is a success story. When we look at Australia, New Zealand, these are success stories. Come to East Africa, Rwanda is doing very well in terms of CBC. And CBC was implemented in Rwanda in 2015, while it is performing very well. So questions are, how comes then, as a country, we are still struggling to implement this whole system? Even though there are justifiable reasons why we are still struggling, I believe that the government has not put in much to just ensure that this information goes out well. Looking at a country like Philippines, looking at the Singapore that we desire to be like, even though they don't term their system as CBC, but they use CBC approaches in their learning, critical thinking, collaboration, communication, all these are incorporated in their learning. However, we look at the beginning when this system came upon, there was a great misunderstanding and resistance, and this was seen in the parents. Why? Because the communication was poorly done, and secondly, they believed that CBC was a way of ripping off the parents, where the projects were too costly. And I think that is why now the president moved to come up with the Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms to just check in what then do we need to do as a country to ensure that this whole thing is well communicated and propose ways through which we can make this system better. But even after that, we still see some hitches in terms of what is being done as a nation, and I believe that it calls for a concerted effort to just ensure that this system is a success. And apart from that, as a nation, we see that the country probably maybe just involving all stakeholders, you know, in all this. How much are stakeholders involved or engaged? Are we just release probably circulars for us to comply with? So it is important that the ministry then provides or brings on board all the stakeholders to ensure that this communication is well done, and then there is a buy-in for all the stakeholders in what exactly is happening.
And what role does private schools play in senior secondary education? And I'm mentioning this because I'm sure the many challenges we have in the public schools, we have challenges in the private sector, but not as much as we have in the public sector.
I can tell you, we equally just go through challenges as private schools, because we realize that CBC is not a cheap affair. And I always say education is not a cheap affair. And everyone should be intentional about investing in education. As Kenya Private Schools Association, we have gone forward to invest heavily in infrastructure, facilities and learning materials, training teachers to just ensure that senior school is a success. And we did not start this preparation today. We start this preparation where we had a conversation towards junior school. When we did have an understanding, so will there be a standalone junior school? Will senior school be a standalone? And as institutions, we went forward and invested heavily, one in laboratories, in ICT facilities, and also in classrooms, training of our teachers. Right? We do not want to just wait for the government to go forward and train on our behalf. We also go forward and ensure that the training is well done so that our teachers are prepared to take up the senior school. Job shadowing. We ensure that our children are exposed to job shadowing. And we don't have to wait for them to come here. We also bring experts on board to just let the child know, when I desire to be a pilot, what does a pilot look like? This is all that we do as private schools to just ensure that senior school is a reality and not just a talk.
Boaz, some strong words from Rose there. And from the private, and we have the private and the public. I'm looking at how these grade 10 placement, just like some parents have mentioned, it could widen the gap between the rich and the poor. And how can we ensure that the equity red flags are not there? Because let's be very honest, if you go to the 844, of which I believe we both went through, you see that there were some differences between the private and the public schools.
Let me tell you one thing that has happened even in the past. The system before 844, which was a 7423, at the higher level, right from the 4 and 2, you'd find that the public schools were thriving so well. They were thriving very well. In fact, even the private schools was strategically placing their students to apply for those high schools. And this happened even within the 844. At the foundational and primary level, you find that the private schools, yes, almost everybody feels that that's where quality is. But at the high school, people are looking for the Maryhill, the Kenya Science, the Alliance, you know, those kind of things. What is the difference? Is because the investments were being made in those schools. And those investments is what was turning them around. Unfortunately, it appears that we had forgotten to bring other schools to the status or the same level as this until CBC now is confronting us with the reality. Because let me tell you, look at the students who have joined starting yesterday. Those majority are supposed to be doing STEM. I want to take you just through some of the STEM subjects, the new ones, which are there. Of course, but let me just read all of them. Biology is there, chemistry is there, physics is there, general science is there, agriculture is there, computer science or studies is there, home science, aviation, building construction, electricity, metalwork, power mechanics, wood technology, media technology, marine and fisheries tech. You get those subjects?
Yeah.
We are going to be in deep trouble because the teachers to deliver those are now not in the public education space. The private schools had already seen this and they are preparing their teachers. And this is what we've been saying. So why it takes us so long to realize that we need to prepare ahead of time, I don't know, and that's why I was saying that the minister of the CS should be forthright and come out and tell us that, okay, colleagues, I think in the admission you saw they were just admitting them, your STEM, but not broken down. In the system before the 8441, which you went through, within that previous system, you would be going to do, this is arts and arts, largely arts school, A-levels, or arts and science, or heavily science, but you'd find that those combinations existed. But even within the science, you'd find there are those who are going to do the MPC, that is maths, physics and chemistry, maths, biology and chemistry, you know, those kind of combinations. They existed and they were joining when they knew that's what they were going to do. As of now, we are appealing to the teachers. I know it is a difficult assignment they have, the high school teachers who are now going to handle grade 10, that you be patient with these young ones. Be patient, why? Because at the junior school also they did not get justice in terms of being prepared and to be enabled to now make a decision whether I want to do aviation. And now that even the school you thought that offers aviation, you've not been placed there. You are in a school called Baronger, which even one laboratory is not been complete, but you're doing STEM there. You must now start checking. Would you be able to do power mechanics there? Would you be able to do electricity there? The school does not even have electricity in the first place, supplying it. So, and I know electrification is going on thanks to the CS who is trying to improve on that. But what I'm basically saying is that let us not bury our heads in the sand now. Let the cabinet secretary be like the one that I'm telling you, yes, we are ready here. Yes, these ones are gaps, but we are struggling to make sure that we are done with them. Let them not tell us about 100,000 teachers. You can be having 100 teachers who are teaching theology. That would not take us. 100,000 teachers who are teaching theology would not necessarily take us to the STEM path. So just demarcate, open up, and be objective. When people raise those matters and they point out and tell you this is where we have the struggles, the gaps, try to see how can we fix it now. You can do an immediate plan, mid-term, and even a longer-term plan. You can even project this in a 10-year kind of a planning so that whoever even comes on board would not be starting afresh. Because always thinking that whoever was there before you did such a shady job that you trash everything and start afresh has also brought us into problems. So can that planning be done in consultation with the stakeholders so that the plans are also not registered and assigned I mean, it's like a legacy of XYZ. No. But those projects and plans are owned by the education stakeholder. that even if there's a regime transition, people will not be saying, oh, the Uhuru one tried to take us this, now that's not good enough, let's now go to this. They are not Uhuru projects, they are not Ruto projects, they are Kenyan projects. Can we do a plan with the Kenyan in mind, the national interest at the center? That would help us to go many places. That would help us to open up and address the challenges that is now enhancing the inequalities we are seeing. The rush that you have seen by all the students to go to only those schools, the elite schools, which have the facility. It's because of the inequality that they are trying to run away from. Because by the end of it all, the summative exam they'll be doing in grade 12, it will not be like, oh, the C1 schools, you'll be doing this level. The C2, no, it will be uniform. So they're trying to get closer to where they can get a lot of content, a lot of material. That is why there's a dash for just these schools. That's why they didn't select the 3,600. You remember the 3,600 schools which they did not select? That's why they didn't select them. So can we just open up and say we are going to prioritize even those schools which were not selected to bring them to some level? But the ultimate goal, which even Elimobora we advocate for, is to ensure there are standards for senior schools in all the public senior schools. That they are able now to follow whichever pathway they want in those schools. But that they can also still transfer, inter-pathway transfer when they join senior school. Because right now, one might be thinking that I just wanted to do metal technology because I love things metallic. Maybe that is where I thought, with physics and other things will take me to engineering on the motor vehicle, electronics, those kind of stuff. But now you realize you're not going there. Can they be encouraged to start small, but seeing that there's some support coming in? I think that is required for the learners to settle and also for the teachers to be assured that they're being helped to deliver on this subject.
That's a very interesting point that Boaz has raised, and it's true when it comes to infrastructure. Well, there are some schools who we can say are quite wanting, and especially the rural ones. Talking about electrical and the school doesn't have power, talking about aviation, talking about metal technology, talking about some of the subjects that I've seen, computer.
Yes, computers.
Not all schools have computers. And I'm quite sure when we look at the private sector, it's a little bit easier than the public side. Are your members compliant to all these infrastructure needs? And how are you dealing with concerns in regards to high fees by the parents?
Okay, thank you so much. Probably just to maybe make a comment as regards to the government, what the government is doing as regards to standardization of the schools. When all the parents are crying to go to the alliance of care of this world, going to Stare of this world, what is really the cry of their heart? The cry of the heart of this parent is like, Stare has better resources, Stare has a better name, Stare has better teachers, and all these were preferred issues, things that were found in 844, which then CBC is trying to address. And it is important that this is standardized across the entire country, that I can walk into a school in my rural area and get the same quality as I get in Alliance High School or I get in Starehe Boys. However, for private schools do offer, they have different categories, just like I said. We have Cluster 1 schools, which is Kabarak High School, for example, and they do offer different subject combinations, different resources are used, exposure to different learning methods. So we expect, therefore, that these fees cannot be the same compared to a Category 4 school. So as Private Schools Association, we have different categories. We have high cost, middle cost, and low cost. This is just to ensure that we cater for the all the children in the entire public. That we do not have a child saying, I was not able to go to a school because of the issue of school fees. Do we know as private schools, we have schools that do charge a fee as low as 10,000 shillings. But the issue has been a perception in the public like private schools are quite expensive. We cannot go to private schools because they are charging exorbitantly. But the truth is depending on the kind of resources that we do provide, then we charge our fees depending on the resources and also on the availability of resources. So yes, our schools are places of centers of excellence and preferred institutions of learning.
Boaz, I know I wanted to ask you this question when we are winding up this this interview, but since she has brought a new angle in regards to that, we will talk about. I remember even the CJ, that is the Chief Justice Martha Koome, once mentioned that if we put all these monies that we have, the 700 billion that you've talked about, the money from the CDF, the numerous scholarships, the numerous funds,
county government.
I think, do you believe that we can provide
those funds are adequate to activate Article 53 of the Constitution.
On the right to education.
The right to free and compulsory education. Basic education. Why? I mean, all this money, all these funds are supposed to be aligned to the needs in those schools. You look at what our legal mechanisms provide, even the Basic Education Act and all that. And maybe, Rose, that is where, when you say 10,000 is a small amount, there are families that are struggling. According to our law, Basic Education Act and the Constitution, basic education is supposed to be free, meaning the state-sponsored, using our taxes, and compulsory, meaning there shouldn't be any child out of school. If those children are in private schools, okay, that's okay. But if they are out there, they can't access anyone, any one of us can pick that child and take to the nearest public school, and they should be admitted. That is what our laws provide for. Where we are at, I think we seem to be having lots of money all over. Maybe the example that is coming to my mind might take a lot of time. But a case where you have resources that these are coming from the budget education, budget on the education vote. We have pointed out the one that are coming through other channels, including the NGCDF, including the devolved government, where the pre-primary and then the vocational training are. But still within there, you've seen them also giving even scholarships and bursaries to high schools and even TVET and universities. In other words, all this money, Elimu Bora called a long time ago, can we structure them and put them in a vote, in a fund that is dedicated just into realizing this basic education, free and compulsory component? That is the dream that Kenyans had. It is a dream which is still realistic and can be achieved. So can we just put that? And can we get to the details also? So that we say each and every learning level, pre-primary, PP1, PP2, how much does it cost to educate a single child? And then you aggregate that. We have the statistics on how many children we have at that level and plan for it. And if there's anything that is confronting us and making us to divert our attention, we forget about that. We still come back to education as a priority and the resources mobilized towards it. We estimate not more than 1.4 trillion can cater for free education from pre-primary to the university. As a Limubora, we've done that analysis. We are saying it is possible. And imagine, with the amount of resources we have right now, all we need to do is first seal the loopholes of corruption. The former president, Uhuru, told us, the fourth president, I think, that should be using the numbers. The fourth president, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, told us that nyinyi mnataka nifanyaje kwa sababu kila siku we are losing 2 billion shillings. The Auditor General gave us an indication that about 700 billion.
It's a third of our budget.
Yeah, 700 billion is being wasted, lost. Now the accumulation of that. Right now, people are saying even the corruption levels could have gone up. Maybe we are hitting 1 trillion being lost. That money, we seal those loopholes. People should not ask, where does the money come from? Seal those loopholes. We'll have the money. We'll deliver free quality education for everyone. Once that is done, my friend, the economic opening up, the industrialization, the dream of being a first world and all that would be a reality. If you've seen, I think the subjects that I'm happy that they are being placed in the senior school, but they should not be placed just to make the paper look nice when reading. They should be made to work. In other words, we should be having facilities to deliver on marine and fisheries technology. That we should be able to deliver on power mechanics, that we should be able to do aviation, not just in the two schools of Nairobi School and Mangu. No, we should be, I mean, how many, the same, you know, the CSA, not all of us can find spaces in those schools. Yes, it is true. The maximum that you'll have for those schools may be at 2,000. But we had 996. I mean, 1.13 million students who are supposed to be transitioning. So how many, if we only take 2,000, I mean, we are having huge numbers. Let us incrementally invest in the infrastructure and align it also with how are we training teachers, the ones who are getting into the pre-service training right now. Have we seen that the universities have adopted and adjusted to ensure that some of the subject combination now they are offering, like previously they would be offering 2 subjects if you are taking maths and chemistry, maths and physics, and then another paper. But now are we seeing that there are those who are going there to be trained to teach aviation, to teach metalwork, to teach wood technology, to teach power mechanics, to teach, you know, all these subjects which are coming. We must align there. And the moment we do so, even if it is painful now and we do heavy investment, within 10 years, we shall be able to have turned around that situation. But the problem is we are having a problem right now, but all we say is all is okay. All can't be okay when less than 30% is slightly correct. Even the main school, the C1 schools we are talking about, I don't think they have the teachers to deliver on those subjects because they are not being taught. So we can't say all is okay. And please do not give us figures of 100,000 teachers or 76,000 teachers recruited. I told you, you could be having theologians like the ones who import persons with disability to heal. And that would not be helping us. Yeah. Let us be straight, let us be real, let us be scientific. In education, you do not want to guess things. Right. You just want to be scientific, to be professional, and to deliver this curriculum. Otherwise, it will follow the path of the 844, which was very brilliant, and we did not deliver as per the content, the curriculum content that was expected.
Rose, allow me to keep up with the figures, just like Boaz has mentioned in regards to the cost. And some parents are talking about private schools extorting them because it's a new transition, it's grade 10. How are you as an association ensuring that these parents are not extorted by the schools and we make education a right and not a luxury?
Oh, thank you so much. Probably I should make the public aware of why the private schools actually came about. Is we are saying that we want to provide, to seal that loophole whereby there is lack of institutions where children should go to, that no child should be left behind. And private schools are schools of choices. It's a parent's choice to actually choose which institution to go to according to what they offer you as a parent. So therefore, it will be misleading for parents to believe that it's an extortion from private school parts, that the school fees are so exorbitant. We even realize some of our institutions that do offer, on the corporate social responsibilities, they actually offer free learning to our learners. You realize a private school offering over 50% in a classroom, and all these learners are on a free basis learning, no school fees at all. And going back to the issue of free education, even as a nation, probably it is important for the public to also be made aware what is actually free. I came across an interview where a parent was being interviewed on the cost in the public sector, in the public schools. And the parent was outlining what exactly is required for him to admit his daughter in a C1 school. And the cost was coming to around 100,000. This is way lower than what a private school will cost, will charge
Yep.
in a normal setting, or maybe probably a C3 institution and private school. So it is also important for the public to understand how free is free. What do we mean when the public says, when the government says we are offering free education?
Yeah.
When we say remedial charges, why are we coming up with these charges? You know, when a parent is expected to pay up to a tune of 120,000. So you realize there's some public schools which actually charge more than some private schools. Yes.
And Boaz,
Yes,
allow me
please.
to go back to one of your reports.
Yes.
As Elimubora.
Remember, yes.
You did mention that special needs enrollment is below 2%.
Yes.
How is grade 10 placement catering for learners with disabilities?
The statistics is not even made available, and there's nothing unequivocally stating that we are prepared to receive the special need students in our institutions. Right now, it is generalized placement and admission. The few special needs education institutions that we have are already been packed, and indeed they have been traditionally considered. Those are centers where, you know, the Vicar School for the Blind, you know, those kind of categories. When we were approaching the CBC, and based also on the directives that the Constitution gives at Article 54, that you need to have an inclusive education system. Inclusive, let me tell you, we this persons or children with disability are our children. They are in our homes. We stay with them. We live with them. The learning that they get right from home is from us, and we also learn from them. So if you separate them all so much, in other words, you want to give them a specialized training, they'll still remain isolated out there, even when we come to the job market, when we come to economic opportunities and all. So that's why the inclusive education principle is paramount. And I like maybe CS and the team here, they are technocrats, understand this concept very well. They would know, because it is a UNESCO concept, it has been developed, it has been tried, and it has been tested. There's institutions that are trying to integrate that fully. They are not, as we speak, doing that. Many of the schools that exist remain as were. Even the new infrastructure that is being developed, you are not checking to ascertain that they are disability compliant or friendly, they're disability friendly. Those are challenges that we're having. But even the teachers, you can imagine that you're having a learner who is really struggling to learn because probably how to communicate, is not able to communicate with the teacher. These are situations, that's where the inclusiveness comes in, so that the teacher is given the support and skills to enable that teacher deliver in whichever environment in an inclusive manner. And it's the teachers wish all the time that when they are in class, there's 100% attention. You can imagine you are in class and they are part of it, because by estimation, in the country, 5% of our population are people with disability. If 5% are people with disability, it means anywhere you pick 100 people, 5 are people with disability. So cater for that. And the equity principle also, that you start with the farthest in mind. You start with the most marginalized in mind. You start with the one that has been forgotten in mind. After you have done well for them, the rest would fall in place. That is one of the principles in the equity, why it would be helpful to address those. And those are included in the inclusive education agenda. Kenya is part of the consortia of countries that have been discussing this and have been advocating that it be implemented in full, because in the long run, training all these children, after you've trained them, you are not going to isolate them and create job opportunities for them elsewhere. They'll still be working within the system here. So why do you start by this separating? So we need to rethink that suggestion or that principle and see how do we implement it. And now when we are saying, I think the inclusion and the children with disability, but also you saw there are a few cases of misplacement of boys being misplaced in girls' schools.
Yes, that
and
was
vice versa.
Yeah.
Those ones are also things which need to be addressed and done well. I liked what Rose mentioned also, the element of ensuring that any school within the territories of Kenya, any school, you go there, you find that school, you should find the basic parameters that can guarantee quality. And parameters of quality include the teachers in number and in proportion of alignment with the subjects that they are offering. Two, that the infrastructure in place and the curriculum that they are delivering, they have the requisite resources or tools in that school to be able to deliver that. Why that is important is because we are having employment law in this country. Public servants, for instance, you can be transferred anywhere. You can imagine you are closer to a school that was assuring your children on almost everything, and you are transferred. You go with those children, and you get, it's not even a culture shock. I don't know how to call it. But they start asking, Mami, Daddy, ile shule ulinipeleka, ni shule kweli ama ni kwa sababu sijaona hii, sijaona hii, sijaona. Those questions have been real and have been asked. That's why then you'll find that people and the parents tend to release many of those public servants, you tend to release their children to boarding schools early because they don't want that kind of interference. What Eli Mubora has been calling for, that's what we call the standardization of schools, that model. We've given it a name, I mentioned severally, that anywhere you go, let's have a school as a properly set up school. I know the basic education guidelines at least has some parameters that you require, but let there be those standards which are also implemented and enforced by the Cabinet Secretary.
All right, I'm informed by my director that we are running out of time, so I'm giving you a minute each for wrapping up. And especially I would like to ask, what role can private schools play in public-private partnership to improve access to education in Kenya? And also in Arab, what are some of the challenges that you have seen that if at all government, parents and even schools play, we can make grade 10 transition very smooth?
Thank you so much. Let me start with probably the challenges that we are currently encountering as a nation. I'll start with the issue of special needs, and it's actually a sad state of affair in the country that whereas we define these things on the paper, it is not a reflection on the ground. We define that there is need for affirmative action to give preferential consideration for children with special needs and also those who are from the marginalized areas. But you realize that some of the schools, especially in the rural areas, are yet to actually be given capitation. When you walk in some of the rural schools, some of them have not even been provided capitation as of 2025, looking forward to 2026, and we hope that the government then will be able to address such issues to ensure that capitation is actually done on time, and especially with schools that face the issues of special needs. Another challenge that we encounter probably as an education sector, like we have said, is parental involvement and engagement, that the parents should be fully engaged in a learner's affair. CBC is not teacher-centered, it is learner-centered. Therefore, the parent, it is paramount that a parent is made aware of what is my involvement in my child's learning. What role do I play to ensure that the child's learning is a success? And thirdly, probably is communication from the part of the government. How well do they communicate, ensuring that communication is done timely and accurately, so that the public then gets to get information as regards to education. And then policy shifts and changes all the time. There is need for harmony in terms of policy, probably to just ensure that these stakeholders work together when coming up with policies, so that there is no back and forth that, of course, then creates a ripple effect of back and forth, wastes a lot of time.
Okay. Boaz, as we wrap up.
Thank you very much. I think quick things. The challenges we are addressing, the government is aware of them. We want to see political goodwill, and we want to see, I would call it read the Riots Act, let the president do that, and ask how can we find it so wrong when we have had all this time to prepare. 2, communication, I wouldn't re-emphasize, that must be fixed. 3, tracking the resources to the need which supports the student. If it is capitation, track those resources. Are they being used to do the right thing? But you also track it from the source. Are they releasing all of it?
And in good time.
In good time.
Yeah.
Track all that. Do not spare anyone. If you do all that, please also mobilize other sectors, other departments to ensure that there's no single child that, as we speak now, is out there selling jugu, being enslaved in some home. No, there are adults like us who won't feel anything, having a small child called a girl as their maid in there.
Okay.
Ensure that you take decisive action against such offenders, so that all our children are in school and learning. And lastly, teacher 1, teacher 2, teacher 3. The moment you do not take care of your employees, then your clients will be in disarray, because your employees will be so demotivated, dissatisfied. The chief employees of the ministry are the teachers. Can you ensure that they are motivated, they are aligned to the subjects they are going to teach? And those that you are now still extending their recruitment as interns, the courts have told you. TSC has got no register of trainees. TSC has register of certified teachers. Deploy them as fully permanent and pensionable. We have the resources to pay them.
All right.
Deal with corruption so that the funds are made available.
Thank you, Boaz. Thank you, Rose. Indeed, that we've been having a candid conversation in regards to the ongoing grade 10 admission 1.13. Students should be placed in a school because, as the Constitution says, it is the basic education is free and should be free and compulsory. That's a conversation that we will be keeping tabs with. But I've been hosting Boaz Waruku, who is the Policy and Strategy Advisor at Elimu Bora Working Group, and just next to him, we have Rose Oteye, who is the CEO of Kenya Private School Association. On our next hour, we'll be looking at the war on drugs and substance abuse. I'll be having someone from NACADA and also from KETCA, which is the Kenya Tobacco Control Alliance. Back in a minute.
Umepanga kuniangamiza kabisa?
Hiyo familia unachukia ni familia yangu.
Nimekuja na kakitu tusherekee.
Doc amesema ukimaliza uende usign contract yako.
Wewe. Hiyo kitu ambacho ulikuwa umechimba potoa. Usinipime wazimu wangu.
Kila kitu anatutakia kitamrudia.
Really, I have so many patients. Just go straight to the point. What did I tell you?
Sorry, Doc.
Odi.
Wewe sema kitu imekuleta hapa.
Kitu iko sawa. Karibu sana, karibu kiasi kiserikali, unajua haishindi na jambo lolote.
Mamba alionekana usiku wa kuamkia leo.
The world of governance is vast and can be alien to the ordinary man on the street.
Critical issues are going to be discussed.
From white papers to policy positions, it is easier to get lost in the labyrinth of words.
Inside Government takes you to key global metropolis where critical decisions are made and where policies are crafted.
We interview policymakers and senior government officials to highlight and enumerate government policies and projects. We take a deep dive into the underbelly of complex red tape to demystify policies across the country, across the world. Join me, O'Brien Kimani, on Inside Government, only on KBC Channel 1.
where is the balance between what's a good decision and what's a godly decision?
Parents or like mentors or pastors, they're older than us, so they've experienced more than what we have. So when they tend to give us those advice or decisions to make.
He felt bad after because the decision isn't good in the end, because God's decisions are always good, so we should always follow them.
If it's good according to the standards of the world, then it is not necessarily godly.
I think our environment and things we interact with, like social media and friends, they most of the times influence the kind of decisions that we make.
Friday night again.
Greetings in the name of the Most High, Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice, we
have to do it twice.
Welcome back to KBC News Check, and as mentioned earlier on is that we'll be looking at the war on drugs and substance abuse. But before we do that, let's first of all cross over to Archer's Post, where President William Ruto has been having the Mount Kenya tour, and specific in Njue County. Let's first of all listen to what he's saying at Archer's Post.
Inapanga mambo yao, na nyinyi pia mjue ya kwamba duniani hii mambo ni kujituma, my friend. Mambo ni kujituma. Hakuna nafasi itakuja kukutafuta nyumbani. Hakuna nafasi itakuja kutoa kwako. Wewe lazima ukanyage, wewe lazima upige simu, wewe lazima utume SMS, wewe ujitume ndio tuweze kuendelea na wewe pamoja. Vijana hoye. Vijana hoye. Jambo la tatu tunafanya, na mimi nataka niwaeleze vijana so that you know where your opportunities are. Jambo la tatu ni mambo ya digital jobs. For a very long time, hatukukuwa na mpango ya vile vijana wanaweza kufanya kazi katika program ya digital jobs. Nchi ya Philippines, they have perfected how to work in the diaspora and how to work on the digital platform. Ndio tumesomana na wao, na leo we have 300,000 young people in Kenya working on the digital platform, on digital jobs. Mimi nilikuwa juzi pale Ruiru. Vijana 5,000 wanafanya kazi kwa building moja. Nilienda kufungua ya CCI. Mambo ya business process outsourcing, digital jobs, Jitume Center, ICT hubs. Ni program ambayo tuna roll out kama serikali ya Kenya. Sasa tumefikisha fiber optic 30,000 kilometers. Mpango yetu ni kufikisha 100,000 kilometers, na tuhakikishe ya kwamba kuna nafasi ya ajira katika kila ward. Tuwe na ICT hub, tuwe na Jitume Center, ndio vijana waende pale ufanye kazi kampuni yoyote duniani, ulipwe pesa kwa dola ukiwa hapa Samburu ama Marsabit ama Laikipia ama Isiolo, na tuweze kuhakikisha kwamba vijana wetu wanapata nafasi ya ajira. Vijana hoye. Nyinyi mnanielewa? Ya ine ni hii tumesimama hapa na nyinyi. Sio kila kijana ataenda kufanya kazi Marekani. Sio kila kijana ataenda kufanya kazi kwa program ya affordable housing. Sio kila kijana ataenda kwa ICT hub. Kuna wale wanataka kufanya biashara. Si ni kweli? Na ndio sababu hiyo tukasema design program ya Nyota. Na hii program ya Nyota tuko na nafasi mara 4 ama programs 4. Program ya kwanza ni hii yenu ambayo tumekujia hapa leo. Tumesema ya kwamba kila kijana ambaye anataka kufanya biashara, na pengine unaanza biashara kidogo lakini huna pesa ya kutosha, tukasema ya kwamba hawa vijana wata-apply. na tulisema hii application hatutaki patronage, hatutaki kujuana. Sio lazima ujue chief, sio lazima ujue PS, sio lazima ujue mjumbe ama MCA. Wewe na simu yako uta-apply, tutakufuatilia mpaka upate hiyo pesa. Mimi nataka niulize nyinyi vijana mlio hapa, kuna mtu amehongana ndiye afike hapa? Kuna mtu amekuuliza ya kwamba umpatie pesa fulani ndio akuweke katika program ya Nyota? Si kila mtu amechukua simu yake, uka-apply, ukafuata maagizo, ukatembea, ukaenda kwa training, ukatoka kwa training umefika hapa, na si leo utaondoka hapa na mali yako. Hiyo ni kujituma na ni bidii, na mimi nataka niwaeleze pongezi sana kwa sababu nyinyi ni watu wa bidii. Tunaelewana? And I insisted that this program must be transparent. This program must be accountable. We do not want brokers. We do not want connections. We do not want patronage. We want to make sure that every young person, by their own effort, should be able to be a beneficiary of this program. Na ndivyo mumefika hapa leo. Si namna hiyo? Tuko pamoja? Tuko na program ingine, part of this Nyota. Wale watakaopata pesa hii shilingi 50,050 kila mmoja ni vijana 100,000. Na tutapatia nyinyi shilingi bilioni 5 kuhakikisha kwamba 50,000 for every young person, 100,000 of you. Lakini tuko na program ya pili. Kuna vijana wengi ambao wamefanya kazi, pengine ni plumber, pengine ni electrician, pengine ni tailor, lakini hakupata nafasi ya kwenda college. Hana certificate, hana stakabadhi yoyote. Sisi tumesema tunatafuta vijana kama hawa. If you have friends, if you have neighbors, if you have people whom you know who are either masons, they are carpenters, they are electricians, they are whatever it is that they do in terms of trade, but they don't have a certificate, we want to support them. We want to look for them. Sisi tutawalipia ile examination ambayo watafanyiwa. Sisi tutawalipia certificate, wapatiwe certificate. Ndio huyo ambaye hajakuwa na certificate, hajawahi kwenda college, pia tumwezeshe kupitia kwa serikali ya Kenya, tumwezeshe awe na certificate. Ndio the next time anaweza kwenda kwa affordable housing, anaweza kwenda mahali popote, aende akiwa na certificate yake, apatiwe ajira. Ndio tuhakikisha kwamba no Kenyan is left behind. Nyinyi mnanielewa? Mnanielewa? Jambo la tatu, program ya tatu under this Nyota. Tumekubaliana vile vile ya kwamba tunatafuta vijana 90,000 of them, wale ambao wamemaliza form 4 ama hata standard 8 ama standard 7 ama form 2, hawana certificate yoyote, hawajaenda course mahali popote. Sisi tunataka tuwasaidie hawa, tuwasaidie waende wafanye hiyo course wanataka, na tuwalipie na tuhakikisha kwamba wamepita. Na hiyo itakuwa ni program ya miezi 6. Nyinyi mnanielewa? Na kila mwezi yule ambaye tumeidentify tutampatia 6,000 kila mwezi, aweze kwenda nyumbani na kurudi mpaka amalize course, na tutamlipia hiyo course na tutamlipia certificate. Kwa hivyo we are looking, na mimi nasema hapa, vile we have identified these young people, want to identify the next cohort ambayo watakuwa ni watu tutawapatia training na tutahakikisha kwamba tunawalipia, ili hata na wao kwa leo wanaweza kuwa hawana certificate, lakini itakuwa ni jukumu letu kama serikali tuhakikishe ya kwamba tumewalipia gharama ya kuwa na training na gharama ya kupatia certificate, na hiyo certificate watapata kupitia mpango yetu. They will pay nothing, the government of Kenya is going to pay everything. Tunaelewana? Ya ine, nataka mnisikize vizuri. Ya ine, kuna biashara serikali inafanya. Tunauza vitu nyingi ama tunanunua vitu mingi kama serikali ya county. Tunanunua vitu nyingi kama serikali ya kitaifa, na tumeweka portion ya people living with disability, young people, women, single mothers. Tumeelewana? Na hiyo ni karibu biashara ya karibu shilingi bilioni 300 every year. Lakini vijana wengi hawajapata nafasi ya kuchukua hiyo biashara kwa sababu hawana uwezo, hawana training, we have not built capacity for them. So tunatafuta vijana 600,000. Vijana wangapi? 600,000 young people across Kenya, including women, single mothers, and people living with disability. Tunataka tuwapatie training, tunataka tuwafanyie capacity building, na tuwa connect na biashara na serikali ya county na biashara na serikali ya kitaifa. Waweze pia kuchangia katika kutusaidia kuendesha biashara Kenya, na pia wao wawe beneficiaries. For a long time it has been a token, but we want to actualize it. Vijana muko? Si tulikubaliana mambo ni bottom up? Ama tulikubaliana aje? Bottom up ndio hii. Tunachukua mtu mwenye hana certificate, tunampatia certificate. Tunachukua mtu hana biashara kama wewe.
Has been the head of state, President William Ruto, live from Archers Post in Samburu County during the Nyota Business Startup Capital disbursement function, where my colleague Giverson Maina is currently on that beat. But as we wait for the news from that side, is that the head of state has rallied you to seize the opportunities available, like digital jobs and also Nyota, just like the one he is launching today, and also asking them to harness the skills they have even when they do not have certificate. Because the government will be issuing certificate of prior learning this year, and of course 90,000 young Kenyans will benefit from a 6-month course that will be paid for by the government. But here is the interesting thing: they will be issued with a 6,000 shillings monthly stipend just to allow them to be able to attend, and a certificate to boot with that. But we'll be getting much, as I had mentioned. Giverson Maina is currently with the head of state and will be giving us much more in regards to that. Welcome back. As I had mentioned earlier on the second hour, we'll be looking at the war on drug abuse. And allow me to put this into context. On 31st of December last year, that is 2025, the head of state, in his annual State of the Nation address to the country at the year end, he did say that he has declared 2026 a national development and security emergency when it comes to matters drugs and substance abuse. And of course, you will bear us witnesses that you have seen a number of even new drugs in the market, including when it comes to tobacco. There are other that are stemming from tobacco. When it comes to alcohol, not only do we have second generation drinks, we even have some which have killed people in the country. And the head of state has said that he will give the same expansion to the anti-narcotics unit, the same that he has given the anti-terror police unit, ATPU. That just show you how serious the head of state is in regards to that. But to put things into perspective, allow me to rope in my panel of experts, beginning from my immediate left. We have Amos Waroe, who is the Principal Programs Officer at NACADA. Karibu sana, Amos.
Thank you, Ben. And Santi, for having me.
Happy New Year.
Yeah. Happy New Year.
I don't know whether they still tujenda sana.
It's still New Year.
And next to him, we have Thomas Lindy. We've had a conversation in regards to drugs with him. He'll be telling us where we are. Thomas Lindy is the coordinator for the KETCA, just as mentioned earlier on. That is the Kenya Tobacco Control Alliance. Karibu sana, my brother. And good to see you again.
Thank you, and Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, my brother. Yeah. Now, allow me to begin with Amos, yeah? I'm looking at some of the statistics that we have seen, and you can put it into context. 1 in 3 men and 1 in 11 youths are struggling with one form of addiction or the other. From where you sit, from NACADA's point of view, which is one issue that has come up in regards to drugs that the Kenyans are now putting more emphasis, and that is why it could be why the president said he's declaring total war on drugs.
Thank you, Ben. And once again, thank you for having me. As you have lightly put it, actually the figures you are quoting, they are coming from our last national survey on alcohol and drug abuse in Kenya.
Yeah.
That was in 2022, almost 7 years ago. So I would even tell you that what we have now, what we had those days could even be much higher. And we are preparing to undertake another survey.
Okay.
And the situation in the country, like it has been noted, and especially through the concern the president raised during the New Year Eve, is that in the country we're having a big problem. Actually, it's almost becoming a disaster. And everyone can see it. Even you, when you walk out there, you can see it. From our urban areas to the rural areas. I know most of us visited the rural areas during the Christmas holidays, and we have a big problem. And actually, it's not even affecting men. It's cutting across all our populations, including ladies, and to some extent, including school-going children. So the problem we have currently is that alcohol is a leading substance of abuse, like you rightly put it. During that survey, we realized that 40.5% of Kenyans were using alcohol, and about 11.8 were struggling, almost half of the population. And the about 11.8 were having problem with alcohol use now, meaning these are people who require some assistance. We also found other substances, if you allow me to just highlight to give you a background of the situation, that also our youth were also highly affected. And our youth, I'm talking, allow me to refer to a survey we did in 2024 targeting university students in Kenya, where we realized that quite a number of them were also affected by these substances. Alcohol was also the leading substance at 40.5%, meaning that in our universities, on average of out of every 3 students, there's one using alcohol. That's the
both male and female.
Both male and female, yes. Then what came second was also cigarettes. Cigarettes also came at 13.4. Then we had another new phenomena, like you rightly put it in your introduction, shisha. Shisha and vapes at 10.9. And as you know, that shisha today is illegal in Kenya. The CS of Health issued a gazette notice banning shisha, and I know my brother here from Tobacco Control could talk more about it. And it's becoming a very serious concern because, one, the health effects are even more dangerous because it's being used by the young people, and the health consequences, respiratory diseases and other complications are coming out of it. And also the other challenge we are facing, or the worry, is that the people using shisha and the vapes, the e-cigarettes, there's this notion that is fashionable, is modern, you know, but the health effects are the same or even worse. So there's that mentality that maybe if I'm not smoking a cigarette, I'm doing a vape, I'm looking more fashionable and maybe it's safer, which is not the case. So those are some of the challenges. Another issue we also picked is bangi, cannabis sativa. That's another big challenge. In our 2022 survey, it appeared that cannabis had even doubled from the previous survey. There's a double? Yes, the use. So there's an increase in the use of bangi, and this can also be attested by the many volumes we have been seizing. We have been seeing what has been reported NACADA is doing, Julie, on our enforcement aspect, on the control of the drugs. Bangi is also another big challenge, which we also need to think how to go about it as a country. And overall, we are saying that this is not NACADA's job, but it's all of us. And I think that's what the president said. I even watched another interview last night of the CS, and that's the message we are saying. So basically, we have a big problem in our country, and it's a time for every one of us to come on board and see what we need to do.
Allow me to pick from where Amos has left in regards to shisha. I will tell you for a fact, during the festive season, you know, it was in plain sight, and it's so much illegal, but Kenyans don't know that shisha is as illegal as bang, because it's illegal, and bang is also illegal as well. So I'm looking at tobacco control, and while hard drugs are having the headlines, even the president did mention cocaine, heroin, hashish, you know, he did mention those drugs, and they grab their attentions in airports, in you know, those that are seized. But I'm looking at tobacco and nicotine products. I remember we had this conversation, but I think it wasn't as elaborate as it is now. We're talking about vapes, we're talking about nicotine pouches, and we are talking about shisha, and especially in many establishments here in Nairobi. So I want to know how the landscape has shifted in the last more or less like 12 months.
Thank you very much, and thank you, my brother, for giving the statistics. I think, yeah, there's been a lot of change in terms of the landscape, especially when we look at the consumption of shisha and even many other tobacco products. As you have said, we have so many emerging tobacco products, the vapes that have been engineered in such a way that people may think that these are safe products. And even the shisha, the mechanism that the people, we call it the paraphernalia, that the smoke goes through and it goes through the water. It has a deceiving kind of, it deceives people that this is something safe. People think that once the smoke goes through that big bottle with a lot of water there, then it is, the bong, and purified. It's purified. That's a very wrong approach to it, and we have seen an increase in consumption of this product. And I would say that partly is because of the issue of enforcement. There's been weakened enforcement. You know, at the beginning of the year, in 2024, 2025, we saw a lot of raids being done by NACADA, though there was a lot of backlash and there was a lot of arrests and people were taken to court. Then there was an issue that needed to be addressed there because I think it was not clear how the ban was put in place. And I think the court did some injustice whereby there was a reversal of the ban for some time. But later on, I think that one was solved. And right now we have a ban on shisha. That needs to be communicated clearly among Kenyans. And we continue to urge the enforcement teams to continue enforcing. Myself, I also witnessed that in many places. It is just in plain sight, people are consuming shisha without regard of the law. And I think one of the things with the consumption of shisha, it was that there was the study that was done showed that there is high instances of these products being laced with other hard drugs. It is easily for someone to put in some other drugs into the shisha bongs, like the types of the heroin and such, and one can consume unaware of what is actually consuming. Some of these products, according to the Tobacco Control Act, there is a stipulation on how these products should be marketed and consumed. Shisha is already banned, but other tobacco products, we have specifics. There must be some clear graphics on these products. There must be some warnings on the product. There must be some packaging for the products to be consumed. And shisha does not meet any of those. And going back to the concern that we are facing as a country, I feel that the main challenge that we are having is these soft drugs, if I may call them that way, that once, for example, tobacco, it has been used as a gateway. People get introduced into hard drugs through using tobacco. You'll find that in high schools, that's where there is a lot of introduction to some of these products. And the people feel that it's just smoking, and smoking does, and even the effects are not that intensive as one begins. But the nicotine in the tobacco product hooks these people to this product, and they cannot be able to move out of it. So with the time, they want to get higher and higher, and that's why we see people graduating, starting with the tobacco, maybe adding miraa into the mix. You'll find a lot of youth, and we also witnessed during the festivities, a lot of youths using tobacco and miraa and mogoka. All those are still soft drugs. But with the time, this person, now that he cannot, he wants to crave a more high, he moves to other hard drugs, and that's where we find ourselves in this situation whereby a lot of our population is getting zombified into some of these hard drugs that it's very difficult to come out of them.
And I do remember, still on the same, Thomas, I remember there was a discussion in regards to the nicotine pouches in Parliament, and after that they vanished. They were being sold everywhere, in supermarkets, in convenience shops, in petrol stations. They kind of disappeared. But in the last couple of days, and especially over the festive season, they were all over. They're over the shelves again. What is happening?
I think there is lack of seriousness in our country in
enforcement.
In enforcement, especially dealing with some of these products. We have a lot of illegal drugs finding their way into our country, whereas our agencies are concentrating on the hard drugs. Like, for example, the arrest of some of the guys at the sea. And I'm told that the Iranians, and I'm told that they pleaded guilty. But where was that consignment heading to? It was heading into our market here. So we need a lot of our agencies, and I'm happy about what the president has, the conversation that he started earlier on in the year. And you are seeing this even at the international stage, whereby the US is also coming in very strongly against some of these drugs. That is the type of effort that our country should also put in, so that they can pluck out some of these dealers of these products, and they should get face justice. Because without doing that, and even without taking care of our population in terms of the soft drugs that are being introduced into the market, illegal drugs. We have issues of Oris. I don't know if you know about that. It's also an illegal tobacco product that is found everywhere within the informal settlement, and people are consuming it. So we need strong agencies, and I'm happy about what NACADA has been doing over time, but we need to revamp that and ensure that we can be able to take care of these issues.
Allow me to have a different opinion in regards to what you've said, as you're happy about what NACADA is doing. But back to you, Amos, and I'm not trying to really discredit you guys, but the moment that the president mentioned that, actually it was more or less the bulk of his conversation. And there are agencies, including you, NACADA, who are mandated to ensure that we don't have drugs. And of course, if we have the drugs that are regulated, including tobacco, the regulation is, and the enforcement, actually, to be specific, is followed. But you guys have been doing a lot of campaigns, and we've seen a few guys arrested over shisha, but other than that, nothing. We are not seeing anything. So my question to you is, in regards to what the head of state said, he's equating drug trafficking to terrorism, and he said they would even be looking at the legislation to just have stiffer laws in regards to that. Now we have a multi-agency approach, because the president did mention that, and he said he is going to be engaging all the stakeholders involved. As NACADA, what exactly are you going to be doing so that you're not all back and no bite?
Thank you, Ben. Allow me first to also give a background of what is our core mandate. NACADA is a campaign outfit. Actually, you know, the name NACADA is an acronym. Our full name is National Authority for the Campaign Against Alcohol and Drug Abuse, addressing the word campaign. At the foundation, or when it was established, it was mainly to be a campaign outfit. And campaign is when you create awareness, you tell people the dangers of this and that. And that was has been happening. But of late, for the last like 2 years, NACADA has been changing to get also directly involved in enforcement. Because, like, you know, all government agencies work in tandem with each other, especially those agencies whose mandate kind of cut across or crisscross each other. And NACADA, we don't work alone. That's why we bring the aspect of multi-agency. Even all along, that's what has been happening. So on the aspect of the enforcement, which we call surprise suppression, we work with other government agencies, and especially law enforcement agencies. That is the police, the DCI, the anti-narcotic police unit, the one which is being revamped, and we are very happy because it's going to really help us in our work. And even immigration, for those who are bringing things from outside which are not allowed. Kenya Revenue Authority, because also drugs have an aspect of tax evasion, especially the alcohol products and all that. So we have been working a lot with these people. But of late, NACADA is also now being empowered towards enforcement. Because like I've told you, our campaign has been twofold. Supply suppression and demand reduction. And the demand reduction is what you are saying. We've been doing a lot of campaigns, creating awareness and all that. But now we have realized that that's not enough. And that's why the government has now even empowered NACADA today to also have an arm of enforcement. Like my brother said, that's why we have been too active even in the local entertainment joints enforcing on shisha and the like. Those are officers drawn from ourselves, from NACADA. We have a unit now. And now bringing all the others together, we form a synergy, and I can tell you we are going to see a lot of change and difference. And there's also, as I said in my introduction, is that our biggest problem has been alcohol. And I think you can also attest to that, even by just doing a drive around the country. We have a big, big problem with alcohol, which doesn't mean we don't have other problems. And I would maybe give some historical background how we got to where we are. Is that, you know, before the adoption of the 2010 Constitution, NACADA used to license all outlets. But when the Constitution came and it was being implemented, that function was devolved to county governments. So today, it's the county governments who license alcoholic outlets. And that's why we found a challenge, because for them, they are focusing on revenue collection. Because the more outlets you license, the more revenue you collect. And that has now made it possible to have so many alcoholic outlets everywhere. If you go to the rural areas, you'll find now that there are a lot of developments are coming up. Even a place where a new road is done, the next thing the owner of the shamba touching the tarmac, what do they do? They do some small buildings, a small commercial center comes up, and the first business to be opened is an outlet. Is an outlet. So as I said in this, we are now, all of us have to sit down and agree what is good for our country, because if we don't do that, we are losing a whole generation, and I think it's good you have accepted that, just like our president reminded us. So that's one area we are looking at. How can we have a formula of reducing these outlets? Because you see, when products are easily available, the accessibility is also a push for the use. Because you don't have a product there, it means you not use it. But now we're having them moreover. So that's been one of the challenges. But coming back to enforcement, we are now working very much in tandem, including county governments. And I think because now we have stepped on the pedal, we are going to accelerate on that. The next thing we're asking ourselves is what will happen to these people who have been using these products, who are requiring assistance. And remember, we say the issues of addiction is a disease. Actually, nowadays we don't call it addiction. You're calling substance use disorder, because your body is not functioning. You have a disorder. So there's also the talk that the county government, and that's a plea and a play NACADA has been pushing, that the revenue they are collecting from the licensing fees, let's also push on it. And actually that's what the law says, by establishing treatment and rehabilitation centers, so that the guys who are now going to miss this product, because the enforcement is ongoing, so it means there'll be shortage, they'll have a place to go to be treated. Because if that doesn't happen, we'll have very serious withdrawal symptoms, which sometimes result even to death. So that's a big problem.
Thomas, I'm still on tobacco and the new products. And by new products, I talk about alternative products, nicotine products. There's the shisha, we have the vapes, and also we have the nicotine pouches. And I'm looking at shisha, which is illegal in Kenya, but enforcement still lacks. As we speak, if you go to Kilimani, you go some joints in Roysambu, you'll find people using, and you know, it's just like a normal day. Is the legislation failing, or we need to do more? Because the head of state, if you do remember, on 31st of December, he did mention that even if it's things that require legislation, you have to speak to the MPs to see what they can be able to do. Could this be the real strike that, you know, takes these drugs out of our streets and out of our schools and out of our homes?
The weak point is enforcement, and I think we should just call it as it is. We need our enforcement officers to roll up their sleeves and go against these people that are bringing in these products. Not just the arrests. We have our borders, which are very porous. Where is this shisha coming from? where are the bongs coming from? They must be coming through our borders. Because as far as I'm concerned, a lot of these products are coming from the Middle East, the bongs and the rest, yeah, including Egypt and such places, yeah, the Saudi Arabia. That's where a lot of these products is coming. And they must coming through a port of entry. So who is in charge of our ports of entry? That one needs to be looked at, so that we can actually start looking at this product, because there's no one manufacturing these products in our country. So those that are concerned with our ports of entry should be made aware that these products are coming in, and they should arrest those people bringing the products into our country. It's purely an enforcement issue, and the consumers, we have this establishment, and I will continue urging those that are in charge of our enforcement, including the police. These are illegal products already. The law is very clear on what should be done. And we feel that something else is lacking in this effort. And we have a weakness at the Tobacco Control Board, whereby we have a representative for civil society organization that should be advising the minister, getting information from CSOs. But over time, we have had the wrong people being appointed into these positions. This should be rectified. The Tobacco Control Board should have the right representative for civil society. I know there are many representatives from different places. But over the time, since the board came into place, we have never had someone from the civil society to speak directly to the Minister Waziri and tell him that this is what we find on the ground, because we are the people on the ground. We see where these products are being consumed, and the minister should be made aware each and every time and what action should be taken. And we just want to encourage that this should be rectified. We have the right people in the right positions to help us to articulate the issues as they are. Yeah. So, and the issue of shisha, myself, from where I stand, I think it should be solved once and for all, so that we have those that are using this product taken care of. There is some time where we had some action being taken when we had Matiang'i at the Ministry of Interior, and some of the ministers in Interior should also take charge of this. It's not about the Ministry of Health only. This should bring in, as my brother said, a multi-agency approach. Each and everyone that is concerned with this, because it's a national issue, should be taking care of this. Yeah.
Yeah. And Amos, I'm looking at what you just said in regards to licensing of bars. Yeah. And that is mostly a prerogative of the counties now, where they give license to liquor stores, wines and spirits. And now, how are you handling cases where the county prioritizes licensing more bars as opposed to public health?
Thank you, Ben. Like I've put it, I think that has been a challenge, but how we're addressing it as NACADA is that, these are two levels of government, because NACADA is national government, and counties are the county, and they're the ones who have been given the mandate by the Constitution to license and to control issues of alcohol in the county level, including through licensing. So how we do is that we engage them. Yeah. And of late, we have seen some very positive engagement with them and a good response, whereby we make them understand we are not just licensing for the sake of it. Actually, anytime you find there's a concept of licensing, a requirement, it means it's supposed to be a control mechanism, which means that not everybody who applies should be licensed, of course, using a given criteria of what qualifies for licensing. So that's what we have been doing, and we are engaging them. And I'm glad to say that now we are getting some very good positive engagement with them, and the numbers are even coming down. Like now, most counties, if you compare the license they had issued last year, against what they're issuing this year, there's some change, positive change, meaning that they're reducing the numbers, because they're saying we don't need to have these outlets everywhere. They're not like hospitals or dispensary, that you need them everywhere. No, so that's one thing we are doing. The second thing is that we're still going around creating awareness to the public, because I told you NACADA, our two-prong is demand reduction and supply suppression. And allow me to mention on this that at the end of the day, we are saying is an issue of personal responsibility because it starts with you. It's you who decides that you're going to spend your money on this, you walk to that facility or you drive or wherever. So we are saying let's be responsible and also let's engage our children and talk to them. And there's a challenge you've also noticed in our society today, the way we are bringing our children, is that you see, for a child, the parent is the best role model. Actually, is a primary role model, followed by teachers and the general public and the relatives as they grow up. So we have also seen that most of our parents, especially the young parents, they are also not the best role models for their children, because if you go out there and you're using these substances, your child is seeing. And your child believes that whatever you do is the best, and your dad is the best, you know. So when you also expose to them to these products so early in age, we are also messing them up. So that's a challenge I'm throwing across to our parents, especially the young parents, that let's be the best role models for our children. And also, it's also important for me to mention that even the law provides that even in our entertainment sports, we should have alcohol-free zones and drugs-free zones, meaning you should not have a place where you are seated as a family and alcohol is being served. And I think that's another gap in enforcement, and I think that's something we are looking at, whereby establishment, if you want to have, maybe you're in is a bar and restaurant, meaning bar and restaurant means a family can come for a meal because there's a restaurant. Then you should have a private, kind of a special section, which is only the restaurant, where I can come with my family, have a meal and go away without exposing the children and those people who are at the age, the legal age to these products. Allow me also to mention that, like he had said, NACADA has been doing a lot, even looking at the laws, the gaps. And actually, we have made some key propositions to Parliament, and they are moving very well through our CS Interior, because we are in the Ministry of Interior. And one of the areas of the proposals we made is that we also revised drinking age, legal drinking age, from 18 to 21 years. And it brought a lot of controversy and discussion, which is okay and very healthy. And why NACADA proposed that is informed by science and research. Today, it's a scientifically confirmed, evidence-based that the human brain development matures between 21 and 25 years. That's the time human brain develops. Remember in my introduction, I told you the statistics in our universities. And if I ask you today, what's the age of our students in universities?
Actually, it's that bracket.
Is that bracket?
Between
Meaning,
19 and 24.
And you see, normally once they finish secondary school, they go to university, they're independent. They feel like now I can do what I want because I'm in my own space. I've left the family, I've read the school where there were rules and regulations, and that's the population we are trying to protect. And because we have seen already, we have a problem with that segment of the proportion. So it's good for us to understand we don't just resist everything which comes. Actually, NACADA was very fair because we would even have proposed 25. Because World Health Organization, the maturity age of a human brain is between 21 and 25. So we just picked the lower side of the maturity age.
And also it's also standard for countries like United States, the UK.
Yes, most of the developed countries, they are in that league. It's 21 and above. Some countries even fight 23, 24, based on this fact that the maturity age of this. The other question we ask ourselves, when you said you are a student or you are a child to a college or university, who meets the expenses and all that? It's the parent. You are paying for the upkeep, you are paying for the tuition, the fees and everything. So where do you expect this student to get money now to go out there and start
advantageously, you're also funding the party.
Absolutely. So that's why we're saying let's also become responsible. Even the youth, because you also engage them a lot. We tell them these things will never end. If you have to do it, wait until you have your money and you also organize yourself. For now, focus on what is important in your life, your studies or whatever skill you are learning. We have seen so many initiatives being developed and being brought about by government. Like now we just watched what is happening in Laikipia, the Nyota program. If you're in the drugs, you never get opportunity to grab these opportunities. And I had the president telling them, this opportunity will not find you in the house. You have to go out there and look for them. But when you're intoxicated or you're in these drugs, you'll not manage. And when you engage them, they always tell us, okay, we ask them in the first place, why are you using this? And they're like, oh, life is very difficult. This is a consolation I can have. But that's not the truth. Because does it mean every Kenyan who is going through hard time, they're in drugs? I don't think so. So let's also be real and we confront our challenges in the best way. And we also agree that there's no soft drive. That's what I talk.
And it's a good thing you also mentioned. Yeah, you mentioned our role as parents and as role models. The good thing that you also put that bulk, and because everybody has something to do. And when you come back, because I want us to hear from the horse's mouth, the young people. When we come back, you know, when growing up, we had cigarettes that are, you know, billboards, you know, posters. We even had them being advertised on television. But the laws now are changed, and we're supposed to put some very scary images on the packets, graphic warnings. But when it comes to alternative, like the vapes and the nicotine pouches and even the shisha, which is even more dangerous than cigarettes, those are not placed there. It's more or less like a setback. But allow us, as you digest that, allow me to cross over to my colleague Achola Simon, who is in Busia, and is actually engaging youths in regards to a topic of discussion on the war on drugs. Good morning, Achola Simon, and kindly bring us up to speed with regards to the discussion that we're having, the war on drugs and narcotics.
What we are doing is that we're keeping a keen eye on the fight against alcohol and drug abuse, as of course directed by the president during his 31st address to the nation. And the reason why we are picking Busia County is there's a big challenge in terms of exactly how to control illicit alcohol that is actually coming from neighboring counties. Here in Busia, where I am, is actually Butula sub-county, and what happens is that a number of illicit alcohol that comes from across border, which is about 20 kilometers away from where we are at, and of course infiltrates some of these villages. And what happens is that when the youth actually get their hands on it, we all know what happens. And of course the president went way out in terms of just enumerating in terms of the numbers that are affected in the country. So then I'll speak to some of the youth in here in Butula who will actually tell us exactly the impact of alcohol and drug and substance abuse here in Butula. So there's a young leader here who will just tell us exactly what he thinks of the fight and what needs to be done, so that then they can actually read that menace from our community. Karibu sana Eugene. Ndakushikia Eugene. Eugene, swala la pombe na mihadarati ni swala ambalo limekuwa ni swala sugu sana katika eneo hili. Hivi tutahakikisha kwamba tunapigana nalo vipi?
Okay, sawa. Kwa majina naitwa Tieno Eugene, nikiwa kiongozi wa vijana Butula, na mimi nimeshukuru sana kuleta hii mswada, na kweli mimi naunga President William Samoei Ruto hiyo himizo alisema. Kweli ikifika miaka 2030 hatutakuwa na youths wengi wakijiingiza kwa mihadarati na kuingiza kwa pombe. So mimi naunga yeye mkono nikisema mihadarati na pombe iko kwa hii mpaka yetu sana sana. Na ile jinsi ya kuzuia, ile venye umeniuliza hiyo swali, ni ile tu kuelimisha, mentorship program, tukue na rehabilitation centers zenye zinawezaimisha vijana wetu wajue umuhimu wa kuwa empowered. Sasa ndio president amekuja na program ya Nyota program. Nyota program anataka vijana wakuje waanze biashara yao kuanzia chini mpaka wafike huko juu. Na hawatakuja kama vijana wamekuwa na ulevi. Unajua ukiwa ulevi huwezi jua chenye unafanya. So mimi nataka kuhimiza vijana wa Busia wasijiingize kwa zile vitu haziwasaidii.
Eugene, nini hasa inafanyika kwamba hizi mihadarati na pombe zinazidi kuenea katika eneo hili, ilhali kuna polisi, kuna serikali ambayo inafaa kufuata maagizo jinsi rais alivyosema?
Hiyo swali mimi nataka kuunga president tena nikirudia hapo. Na nahimiza polisi wenye wako hapa Butula, wenye wako hapa Busia, waweke, wasikuwe wanafuatafuata maneno za watu ama nini, waweke zile njia zenye zinaweza, because kuna chief, kuna assistant chief, kuna wale paka DCC, paka kuna polisi. Waweke mikakati yenye inaweza zuia hizi pombe pale kwa mpaka. Wasije wakakuwa na ile corruption, labda for example mtu anakuhonga ndio aingize hizo pombe za Uganda, aingize hizo pombe za Chang'aa, aingize hizo pombe za Nyazisaidi, vijana wetu wanaumia sana. So hiyo ndio nilikuwa nataka kuhimiza polisi waunge hii kitu ya president mkono na wamsupport, because president yeye kazi yake ni kusema, lakini wenye wana implement ni polisi.
Jinsi umesema ni eti kwamba rais kupitia kwa miradi kadha. Ukisema Nyota kwa mfano tu ameweza kuleta miradi ambayo inalenga vijana na kuweza kuwasaidia. Pengine himizo lako, kwa sababu wewe ni kiongozi wa vijana.
Himizo langu kwa president ama na wananchi pia, program za serikali ziko mingi. Kama mimi pia hapo kwa youth, kuna youth fund, kuna uwezo fund. Hiyo ni baadhi yenye Ruto president alileta ili kuinua tu uchumi wa nchi. Whereby 2020 last year or the other year, vijana jenzi walivamia ofisi ya ilikuwa parliament. But president akakaa chini akaona ni jinsi gani anaweza saidia hawa vijana. So na hawa vijana hawezi saidia wote, lakini wale wenye wameshika, hata akasema jana kuna njia ingine pia amekuja nayo, hawa wengine wakimalizika wakienda tena anaanza wengine. Na kweli serikali haiwezi shika kila mtu, wanaanzanga na wale wachache, wakishamaliza hawa wachache tena programu nyingine inakuja ya kushika wengine. Kuna programu mingi zenye hata alianza, kuna hata kuanzia next year. Kuna program not next year, next month. Kuna program alikuja hapa ya training. Wale wa mama wenye alisema mwenyewe, wale wa mama atakuwa na alipe 6,600 wale wa mama wajane wenye wajiwezi, because huwezi shika kila mtu. Hata tukisema mama wajane wa baba wajane wako hapo ndani na tutaenda nao mbele. Kuna business hata kwa ofisi yetu ya youth, kuna business yenye president mwenyewe alikuja nayo. Kama unafanya carpentry, kama unafanya zile kazi za mkono na uko na license, alihimiza uregister, ulete makaratasi zako ili ikifika uchukue vijana, wakupee vijana wangapi 6 then tuendelee na tusaidie vijana wetu.
Yes. Shukran sana Eugene. That is Eugene, one of the youth leaders here in Butula sub-county. Of course, just putting out there what needs to be done in terms of the youth to be gainfully engaged, so then they actually don't engage in alcohol and substance abuse. But I'll just also put it out there, Njue, the fact that before we did this interview, I did speak to the DCC of Butula sub-county, and he told that they've actually carried out a number of raids in the local brewing dens, and they've actually arrested a number of people. They've also destroyed a number of illicit brews, but they're also doing everything within their means to ensure that indeed they fight that menace. He says that indeed they will be coming up with a multi-agency unit that will ensure that indeed they go around villages just to ensure that indeed they implement what the president said. As we speak to you right now, he's actually in Busia meeting the regional commissioner and also the county commissioner, so that then they can actually craft a way out in terms of ensuring that indeed whatever the president asked them to do is actually implemented to the letter. So this is something that will actually keep a keen eye on, so that then of course we'll be able to report in our subsequent bulletin on exactly what happened. Back to you, Ben, Troy, Njue.
Thank you. That has been my colleague Achola Simon live from Busia, engaging a youth leader. And from what he started with, he talked about if at all we continue with this trend, by 2030 we wouldn't have a stable youth group. And that word really caught my eye. But before we crossed over to Busia, and you hear that the DCC has also moved in to just have a talk with the security agencies in regards to the same topic that we are tackling here. I had asked earlier on before we crossed over, and gentlemen, we are running out of time, but I'm going to give you a minute each for this. What single action do you believe would be very, very helpful if we are to fight and win this war, especially with the head of state now fully behind that campaign?
From my take, I will say that one of the things that we need to really look at is the penalties that are there for this trade in these products, illicit products, and also the sale of alcohol and such. I think that we should review the law to have stiffer penalties. There are countries whereby even possessing such drugs, you are hanged for that. You go for the hang if you possess some of those drugs. So we need to have stiffer penalties. We need our law enforcement officers to be very much alert, motivated enough, so that if they arrest some of these people, they just don't give them a pat on the back and release them like that. For example, I'll give an example like last year during World Tobacco Day, we had a Honorable Aden Duale actually taking part in the banning of some of these products, whereby a consignment of illegal products was actually put to flame. They destroyed them. But Honorable Duale never told us whoever was caught with these products, who are they? What was done on these people? Yeah?
As a deterrent.
As a deterrent, yeah. So people that trade in such products, we need very stiff penalties, including even, as the president has said, we need to upgrade it to a level that people will actually be afraid of participating in these things. That is one. And for tobacco products, one of the known ways is increasing taxes. The legal tobacco products that are in place, we need higher taxes for some of these products so that it's also a way of deterring consumption of the products. And as my brother said, our parents need to be very good role models. For tobacco products, we have second-hand smoke issues, and you are not allowed to consume such a product near someone who does not consume because they will inhale the smoke, second-hand smoke. And I think even with the alcohol and such, there needs to be a law whereby we deter, especially parents and the people who are older, consuming some of this product. Shisha is consumed in bars. The smoke goes everywhere in the room. Who is protecting the non-smokers? Who is protecting people who are not engaging in these products? So we need to protect them. And last but not least, I'm very happy about what the government is doing. The youth empowerment programs are very important, and we need to emphasize on that. And we should also deter. The other day I saw the president talking to the youths that are receiving the 50K for business. You know, there are some youths who can consume that on one sitting, on alcohol. Believe me, some of our youths can actually sit down and clear that 50K on one sitting. So we really need to have, as we give them money to start some of these businesses that they are starting, let us cut down on the establishments that are selling some of these alcoholic products, because that is like a temptation. You give me 50K, I move around, I can't do any business, and I see a liquor store there. Where will I end up? Most likely to the liquor store.
All right, because of the interest of time, allow me to give 20 seconds to Amos to wrap it up from where you sit as Nakada to see what we can be able to do, especially now that the president is firmly behind this war.
Okay. First and foremost, I agree with all what my brother said, Thomas, that those are some of the initiatives you can put in place to address this problem. On my part, I always say, if we are patriotic, we love our country, and you do what is right. For me, that is the bottom line. Because if the law enforcement officer, you not close your eye when you see a smuggler bringing these things. If you are the customs officer in our ports of entry, you'll do what is right. If you are a parent, you do what is expected of you, like I said. If you are the businessman, you not sell to underage in your premises. So if we first become patriotic and we do what is expected of us, and patriotism goes with being law-abiding citizens, that would help. And if you look at what is happening in the developed countries, that's what people do. Because you cannot police everyone, that every other day there's a policeman behind you, checking what you're doing.
See something, you see something, you say something.
You say something, that is it. So that for me is very important. Number two is also we need to support our brothers and sisters who are suffering. I told you the issue of addiction now is a disease. And like Nakada, what we're encouraging is that the communities come together and help our people.
All right.
We have recently launched what you're calling community-based rehabilitation framework, whereby within our communities we can see how they can be assisted. We tap into the local resource. If there's a counselor in the community, they can have a session, the nurses and everyone. And once we do that, among the other things, we'll have safe communities, safe country, and I can tell you, the youth who are also suffering and complain about this issue, let them take the opportunities being offered and let them take them to transform their lives, not to enjoy themselves and run away and then they go back, like he's saying. And I think once we do that, we will have a safe country and we will have addressed this challenge of alcohol and drug abuse in our country.
Thank you. And of course, we're going to be expanding this conversation. Amos Waroi, Principal Programs Officer from NACADA, and Thomas Lindy, Coordinator, Kenya Tobacco Control Alliance. We've been talking about the war on drugs and substance abuse after the head of state pledged to be firmly rooted behind the fight against that vice. We'll be talking about this and much more on our subsequent news bulletin. Many thanks indeed for joining us. That has been News Check. My name is Njue. Lucy Maure has been our sign language interpretation. Earlier on, we had Carol Njoroge. Do have yourself a blessed afternoon. Giving the baton to Swahili Desk.
Tunatambulika kwa mandhari yetu ya kuvutia,
tamaduni zetu, ukarimu wetu, vyakula vyetu, uchapakazi,
na pia kwa sauti tofauti za watangazaji wetu waliobobea.
Libengo niko hapa aka upcoming sponsor. Bila shaka hapa ni kama Pedeshe, ma Deep State, vile cartels.
Tunaenzi talanta za pwani, tunakuza talanta za hapa